Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today with another video. This video is going to be discussing Tim Hardaway Jr. actually, a guy that probably isn't getting talked about much this season because he is on the dreadful New York Knicks. And the Knicks basically have brought Tim Hardaway Jr. into the trade discussion essentially because they're just trying to clear as much cap space as they can for this upcoming off season. They want to try and attract basically Durant and probably another free agent besides him. To do so, they have to continue to clear cap space, and they have this albatross of $17 million owed to Tim Hardaway Jr. this season, next season, and the season after that. That being said, they are looking to trade him, and today I'm here to discuss 5 trade options for Tim Hardaway Jr. to help the Knicks and help another team and be mutually beneficial. Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to go through Tim Hardaway Jr.'s stats for this season so far, just so we're all familiar. So this year he is shooting 39% from the field, which is pretty dreadful. But I think it's because he's being seen as a guy who needs to take 16 shots a night, which he is taking for New York. So on average he's shooting like 6 for 16 basically from the field. He is shooting 39%, as I said. He's shooting 36% from three. He is scoring 20 points a night, taking 5 free throws a game and shooting 86%, which is pretty good. He's getting 3 rebounds a night, 3 assists a night, 1 steal a night. So those numbers are pretty average for a shooting guard, I suppose. But yeah, so he's a guy that can score quite a bit in volume. I don't think he works, like, basically on New York he's the first option right now just because they're so bad this year. I don't think he works well as that at all. I think on a contender he'd be good as like a sixth man or like your fifth or fourth option on offense, but I don't think he works well as a first or second option on a team, or really even a third. Hopefully, maybe on a bad team he'd be like a third option. But well, the Knicks, he's only the first option because they're like a dreadful, awful, terrible team. But even like on a bad team, he should be like a third option. That being said, let's get into some of these trades. So I have him as a third option for Portland in this trade. I have him going to Portland and exchange New York getting a second round pick and Evan Turner. Now, why would New York do this trade when Evan Turner is under contract for both this season and next season? Basically, they get out from under that $17 million a year sooner than they would with Tim Hardaway Jr. And then also maybe Portland throwing in a first round pick or a second round pick incentivizes New York to take this trade. You can play Evan Turner 30 plus minutes a night. He's going to be, I'd say he's worse than Tim Hardaway Jr. And so the Knicks will, tank more and probably get a better chance at a higher draft pick. Although it kind of flattens out now this year with the lottery and how that works, but still they kind of help their tanking efforts. For Portland, you probably start Tim Hardaway Jr. at your small forward spot. Your starting lineup after this looks like Dame Lillard, McCollum, Tim Hardaway Jr., Al-Farouq Aminu, and Nurkic, I'd say. And so that's a pretty good starting lineup. You could also use Hardaway Jr. as a sixth man if you want to start like Mo Harkless instead, which you could do. But yeah, I think he provides a nice like third option punch. And as I say, I think when he's not being looked at as the primary shot taker, he'll have a bit of a better shooting percentage because let me see here. When he was in Atlanta in 2017, when he wasn't like seen as the primary guy, he scored like 15 points per game. He shot 46% from the field, 36% from three. So that was a pretty good season for him, and he was on a playoff team where he was looked at as like the fourth scoring option. So that being said, I think that that's like optimistically his place on a team like the Trailblazers, where he would be the third option. Moving forward, the next trade I have is, of course, I have them in a lot of trade scenario videos that I do lately, but I have them here again just because of the expiring contracts they've got, and that team would be the Kings. I have the Kings acquiring Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. in exchange for Zach Randolph, Iman Shumpert, Kosta Koufos. Now, why would the Kings do this trade, you might want to ask. Basically, I think it's because what do they get back? They get back Tim Hardaway Jr., who in an ideal scenario can be your sixth man, or he could be your starting small forward. And then you get in Courtney Lee, a guy who can score you between 10 and 12 points a night. Can be a pretty decent player for you. This year he really hasn't played much at all for the Knicks, just because I think a combo of like some mild injuries along with them just not playing him much. But so this year's stats are kind of irrelevant for him. But like last year for the Knicks, he put up 12 points a game, 45% from the field, 41% from three, like 3 rebounds, 2 assists a night. Pretty inconsequential numbers there. 1 steal a game. So he's not a terrible player by any means, and some people may think that his contract isn't very good, but it's coming off the books after next season anyway, so it's not that big of a commitment. And again, for the Kings, you sort of up your chances as like not a playoff contender per se, but well, yes, you do. You get more in the conversation for the playoffs. I think you become more serious. You essentially trade 3 players who aren't really contributing to your team much for 2 guys who actually can make significant contributions. Starting lineup for the Kings after this looks like probably De'Aaron Fox, um, Tim Hardaway Jr., or yeah, probably Tim Hardaway Jr. and then Bogdan Bogdanovic, and then power forward Bielitsa, center Willie Cauley-Stein. Then off the bench you have Buddy Hield and Courtney Lee and Marvin Bagley as your main guys off the bench. The reason I start Tim Hardaway Jr. over Buddy Hield is that you could sub in Buddy Hield sort of as a combo guard if you wanted to. You could put him in as a backup for De'Aaron Fox, but you could also have him as a backup shooting guard as well. So you kind of have some flexibility there if you take him off the bench and put Tim Hardaway Jr. in the starting lineup. So from that perspective, I like that trade, and I like the flexibility that gives the Kings, and it improves them significantly, I would say. Next, I have Tim Hardaway Jr. in a trade going to Philadelphia. I have the same package. Philly would be getting Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee to add to their wing depth. In exchange, they'd give up Wilson Chandler, Justin Patton, Markelle Fultz. So what are the Knicks getting? Basically expiring contracts in Chandler and Justin Patton. Markelle Fultz makes $8 million a year, but you're basically, after this season, you're saving $21 million between the contracts of Hardaway and Lee, and for what Fultz is making, he's making 8. They're combined making 29.5. So you're saving $21 million by doing this trade, and you're freeing that much more money up for the offseason when you can sign free agents. And then as for on-court production, they have a lot of point guards already, but you get Markelle Fultz, who you could start at shooting guard if you wanted. Hopefully this trade would sort of motivate him and be a wake-up call for him and a fresh start that he could improve his play and do better in New York. That would be the goal in acquiring him in any trade. But so yeah, that's what New York would be getting. As for Philly, you'd probably have to start Mike Muscala at power forward now that you've traded Wilson Chandler. But your starting lineup would be the same except Muscala instead of Chandler, and then off the bench you'd have Hardaway and Courtney Lee, who could sub in nicely for either JJ Redick or Jimmy Butler at the 2 and the 3 spot, and you'd have a lot of wing depth and scoring, and you'd gain a little bit of depth for basically as far as guys that are actually playing for Philadelphia right now. It'd be trading Wilson Chandler for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee, and so you're getting more back than you're giving away as far as on-court actual production. Next trade I have on here is probably the most simple one and the one that makes the most sense and is the most straightforward. It is just a straight-up swap of Wesley Matthews to the Knicks for Tim Hardaway Jr. to the Mavericks. Basically, the Knicks want expiring contracts. Wes Matthews' contract is expiring, and it's basically equal in value to Tim Hardaway Jr.'s, $18 million to $17 million. Tim Hardaway Jr. is the younger player. He's more productive on court than Wes Matthews has been the last couple of years with all his injury problems. And I think that he would help the Mavs contend just like Wes Matthews, but just a little bit better. And again, Wes Matthews' contract is expiring for the Knicks, but he could still play this year and take up some minutes if they wanted him to do that. So very straightforward trade. I think makes sense for both teams. The last trade I have is basically between the Thunder and the Knicks, and it has the Thunder giving up a lot of guys that don't play that much for them, or to me really aren't all that important to them, in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr. So why again would the Knicks do this? Cap relief. They'd be acquiring the expiring contracts of Ray Felton and Alex Abrinas. They'd also be acquiring Patrick Peterson and Terrence Ferguson. So after this season, they'd still have Ferguson and Patterson on the roster, but those guys combined make $7 million, which is less obviously than um, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s $17 million. So you're saving $10 million by doing this trade if you're the Knicks, freeing up that much more cap space for the offseason, which is valuable, I would say, if they are trying to pursue these top tier free agents, which I think they are. Um, that being said, Oklahoma City gets a wing that can either come off the bench or start, depending on like the health of Andre Robertson or whatever the Thunder decide that they want to do. But you could have a nice addition here. You know, you could start something like Westbrook, Hardaway Jr., Paul George, Jeremy Grant, and Steven Adams, or you know, you could maybe go with a lineup of Schroeder, Westbrook, Paul George, Grant, and Adams with Hardaway off the bench. Whatever you want to do, but he adds a nice option for them who can be a better shooter than what Schroeder can be, and he adds sort of like a new dimension to their offense and like a third wheel. Um, I think he's a better shot creator for himself than Dennis Schroeder is, just because Schroeder's so tiny. I feel like it's no offense to him, but like that can come back to bite you in the playoffs when you maybe get a 6'5" defender swapped onto you. Would you trust Dennis Schroeder at 6 feet to create his own shot, or Tim Hardaway Jr. at an equal height of 6'5" to create his own shot? I don't know, all hypotheticals, but those are the trade scenarios I have for Tim Hardaway Jr. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts, please share them with me below. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.